Welcome to episode number 77 of the Organizations Win Championships podcast and Audacy podcast. I'm Dan Bernstein. That's Jason Bernstein, along with our producer, James Jackson. And we get to break form a little bit today and welcome a guest to the OWC. He is Cody Westerlund, who is the Bulls beat reporter for WSCR The Score in Chicago and also our web editor. Cody, thanks for joining us. How are you?
It's good to be on, guys. How you doing?
We've been good. Not much content regarding the Bulls lately. It's been a lot more playoff basketball and therefore more interesting basketball. So it's been good. I'm sure it's been a little bit dry for you as well, all things considered. But
yeah, it feels like we're in that stretch where it's like any rumor you gotta kind of milk a half hour of content out of if you really want to talk about the Bulls sometimes. Because I mean, what they're doing right now is they're still going through their pre-draft process, obviously working some guys out, figuring what they want to do with that number 11 pick. But like a lot of teams, they're not going to know until closer to draft day, especially when you're down later in the lottery, like the Bulls are, what they want to do. So a lot to play out here, and I'm sure we'll get into that with the Bulls. Kind of want to get out of that pick and what options they'll have. But yeah, when it comes to on the floor right now, it's really just in the Advocate Center and in the offices of the Bulls headquarters that they're making news to themselves.
Let's presume they stay at the number 11 pick, and we get back to this question in what is widely agreed upon to be a less than stellar draft, if not worse than that. They'll have to figure out, do they want a player who immediately can be at least aspirationally a rotation piece, or the latest collection of traits who may be developable and turn into something down the line? We also know that AK knows that his previous stuff hasn't worked. This build didn't work. Is it possible he might be drafting somebody for another executive to develop down the line, or maybe see the fruits of it later on? So these are all the questions that I have. And as you are sort of reading some of the signs out of the Advocate Center, how would you assess that?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, right? And it's only reading tea leaves right now. It's still a guessing game for everyone involved, but AK has good job security right now from the Reinsdorfs. He has a good relationship with them, obviously, and it's been really ugly these past 2 years of the Bulls being eliminated in the play-in round. But I think internally, like, he does feel the weight of that on him and wants to still win now is what I get. Like, I don't think, even though he did leave the door open at the end of the regular season, to anything is possible, I still don't think like a full rebuild's on the table or anything right now. But you can still add a guy who's more traits than he is immediate ready-made contributor and still try to win with guys like Kobe White, obviously, Audacy App, building around these guys. And still that's separate of what do you do with DeMar DeRozan, how's Patrick Williams restricted free agency plays out. But if I'm the Bulls, I would personally lean towards someone with a little bit more higher ceiling myself, because to me it gets back to, sure, you add someone who's slightly more ready-made, but like, what are you doing? What's that guy get you? The 9 seed to the 8 seed, the 10 seed to the 7, like in a perfect world? Like, you gotta swing a little higher to me when you're in this territory and range. And I say that knowing that they tried to do that in 2022 by drafting Dalen Terry, right? Like the Toolsley guy who has good athleticism, long arms, some defensive instincts, and it hasn't worked out yet because he can't shoot at all. So you're putting another guy in the rotation who can't shoot at all, and you're just hoping and praying like, yeah, there's a higher risk there, but still, like, you got to climb up and get someone with a little bit higher ceiling to me when you're picking, even if it's a bad draft, right? Like, you're not the Memphis Grizzlies. If the Memphis Grizzlies draft someone who's plug and play, you get it immediately. These other teams, to me, the Bulls are still so far behind that you want to aim a little higher.
Is it a possibility that they find somebody with some raw athletic traits and the ability to shoot? The thing about Dalen that was a little bit concerning was his form is also a little bit wonky, and because he kind of shakes the ball at the top of his release. But you look at Julian Phillips, who he's not a terrible shooter, and he's also more of a traits guy. And it seems like, especially in the G League, he was really developing until that foot injury caused him to be out for the year. But is it possible that they find somebody with a plus jump shot or like a valuable 3-point shot while also knowing that they can develop athletically?
It's possible. I mean, if you want to bring up a name like Jacoby Walter of Baylor is a guy, I think he shot around 35% from 3-point range last year for Baylor, but he did so on high volume. Some of it was off ball movement, stuff like that. So like there's room and potential there for a guy like that. And I'm not pretending that I watched, a dozen Baylor games, but I watched them a couple times. Obviously the NCAA tournament, they got knocked out by Clemson, didn't go well for them because their team as a whole couldn't really shoot that day, stuff like that. But someone like that, I think it's conceivable in that spot. But you look at some of these other guys, Jason, and you think to yourself, no, that's going to be really hard, right? Like Cody Williams of Colorado doesn't really have a good jump shot yet. Struggled at the end of the season, but a guy with a really high ceiling, for example.
He could be good. That's Jalen Williams' younger brother from the Thunder.
Yep. So you got to love that kind of legacy with him there. And you look at other guys like Rob Dillingham's probably not getting to the Bulls, a guy who can shoot the lights out. Reed Shepherd not getting down there. So you see prospects who could fall there, like Ron Highland doesn't have a jump shot yet from G League Ignite. Obviously proved a lot, can get to the rim, stuff like that. But it's going to be really hard, I think, to do that, save for maybe a prospect or two. But that's what the scouting and the background's for the Bulls, but probably harder to do than it would be in past years, I think.
The polarizing name that I saw in one mock draft, whether or not he's there at 11, I don't know.
Did you say Connect?
No,
Connect?
He's not going to be there. Okay. Dalton Connect is not going to like that. There's your. Do you think
it feels like he goes to the Grizzlies if Donovan Clingan doesn't end up on the Grizzlies? Like that's a team that wants to be a top 4 seed next year.
But that was the other name I was going to bring up was Donovan Clingan because I'm yes, that's exactly my response because I think I've got him scouted pretty well, and I think he is a backup big.
Oh,
I think he can be on the right team a successful like a backup big. He's not as good as Hartenstein. He's not Zubats.
Teams think he is.
Maybe he's like an Alex Len level player, but
you got to get more. You got to get more out of. You don't want him if he's Alex Len,
right? And what I was going to say is, and I brought up this name, and I'm not saying he's going to be this good right away, but in this NBA, you have to shoot. And Donovan Clingan, it's not like he's a terrible shooter. He just didn't have much volume, and he has a little bit of touch. And the thing is that the name that I thought of for his absolute ceiling is like I know he's young, but like what Brook Lopez is doing right now, I think is something that Edey could do because he can't.
Edey or Clingan?
Oh, sorry, Clingan, not Zach Edey.
Okay,
I meant to say Clingan. I get them.
Okay.
I get the names confused. Clingan, because he's not the best leaper, but he's big, he's strong, and if he can, he's a good screener. Just like Brook Lopez. And if he can shoot, I mean, that would be a high bar for him to shoot like Brook Lopez. But that's a name that I thought of that he could turn into, but I think that's his ceiling. But that's not a bad ceiling at all.
I'm a little higher in Clingan than you are then, Dan, because his rim protection is great. I felt like his conditioning has a long way to go, right? Like he played in shorter spurts, or it felt like he kind of waned if he had to play more than those 20, 22 minutes a game sometimes. But he also, to me, in the NCAA tournament at least, showcased the ability to pass out of the short roll a little bit, which I thought was good. And that's just, it's so vital in the NBA now. And I think we see it a little bit in the NBA finals too here. Maybe we won't because the Celtics don't want to double cover Luka Doncic, but we did see it a little bit in the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, like you want that big man, that guy to be able to pass out of the short roll, make a quick decision. Daniel Gafford, for as fun as he is, isn't great at doing it for the Mavs. Derek Lively is doing it better for the Mavs, and that's part of the reason why they got past the Wolves, because he made some good decisions. I think guys like Clingan that can do that, I think that's really important. So there's a few things there that I like more out of him maybe than you do in this case.
It's interesting because if he's what you say, and certainly if he ends up being what you say, then he wouldn't last to 11.
Hell
Correct.
No. He go top five.
No. I don't think Klinging's getting past the Trailblazers at number 7, right? But here's the one interesting thing if you do want to tie it to the Bulls, right? Because Jonathan Givony, ESPN's draft expert, did tie the Bulls to having some interest in Klingin, and obviously there's tons of trade talk right now, so that's probably more preliminary than it is serious, it seems like at this point. But the Bulls still owe the Blazers first-round draft pick, owed from the Lowry Markkanen trade that also got Derek Jones flipped to Chicago and everything. So in that case, it's not a good pick for the Bulls because the Blazers stink and it'll probably turn into 2 second-round draft picks, right? But the Blazers are interested in taking back control of how they use their first-round picks. And so long as they owe that to the Bulls, they can only trade first-round picks 2 years in the future, right? Because you got to have at least a first-round pick every 2 years. So they get control of that back.
Rule or something?
It gives them more flexibility. So if Klingin fell, if the Blazers don't like him at all, and if they think they really need flexibility, there's a narrow window, a tiny path there to maybe the Bulls getting to 7. Not saying it's likely, but that would be, I think, the one way they could get Donovan Klingin.
Now, because his name was brought up accidentally, we mentioned Zach Edey. I know, Jay, you sent me the video of Zach Edey in the corner shooting.
It was top of the key.
No, it was also you.
Top of the key.
Then someone else sent me video of him shooting from the corner. And I was reminded, Cody, of what we made out of Mo Bamba, who was a much better prospect. And where Mo Bamba's like, wow, look at this guy. He's going to make himself into a reliable enough wide open shooter that he'd have to be guarded. Edey is a confounding player to me just because he's so slow of foot.
But he's 7'4".
But he's and enormous and immovable. So what are you hearing about just a reasonable range of projection for him in general?
Well, he was projected in a few of these mock drafts, including ESPN's, to go, I think, 15th in ESPN's latest one to the Heat, maybe. Way too high, in my opinion. I'd want nothing to do with Zach Edey if I was running an organization because you just nailed it. Very slow with his feet. Way too much pick and roll in the NBA for that. The post game, it works better in college than it does in the NBA when you look at the efficiency, in part because NBA 3-point shooters are so good that the 3-point shot turns out to be more efficient. And even if it doesn't turn out to be more efficient shot, it pulls the defense away to have some lobs, get some guys to the rim. So I don't want much to do at all with his post game. I'm worried about his defense. I'm pretty much completely out on him, but if you want like a silver lining, like the Thunder have like 6 million draft picks, right? And they obviously need more size. Like if he went somewhere where he had an extremely defined role, I could understand it on a team. And that's why I think maybe he got mocked to the Heat, right? Because that's an organization that knows what it wants to do, knows how people fit, stuff like that.
How to develop.
But I would think that I wouldn't use a first round pick on him if I'm not the Bulls, but pretty much any team in the first round of the draft, unless I had ample draft capital and a pre-made ready role for him. And I don't see that from a lot of teams. Like to me, the Thunder should use that draft capital to go chase like Jarrett Allen or someone like that instead that could get moved, something like that. But again, like if you see these windows behind the scenes, teams have options and they realize those options are closing, even if we don't know it publicly yet, then I understand maybe a team like the Thunder trying to get Zach Edey in the organization to fill a role and give him a little bit more heft and strength.
Wanted to ask you too about a little bit of Bulls news that we got within the last couple days, and that is that the new head coach of the Windy City Bulls, that's Jason's more regular beat, is Billy Donovan III, supplanting Henry Domersant, who is rumored to perhaps have a seat on Billy Donovan's bench in Chicago. I don't know if he's going to be front row or back row or what that plan is going to be. What is the significance of a coaching change at that level, and how does this affect the overall reshuffling of the NBA bench?
Yeah, so Domercant, like you said, would probably be a second row guy, obviously, with the Bulls adding a couple new assistants here recently in Unseld and Dan Craig. So there's still some maneuvering there. Maybe we'll have to see. But to me, I don't put a great significance in this, but it does matter, right? Like the G League's been successful. The G League Ignite aside, that program's been a disaster, not being competitive, getting shut down, obviously. Just the pipeline of having guys in the G League contribute to NBA rosters and develop has been a win for the NBA success. So I don't want to minimize it completely, but I don't think it speaks to like larger volumes of the organization, like Billy Donovan's power or anything like that. I don't think that's a huge deal because like these contracts in the G League usually don't run for a really long time. They're not extremely lucrative or anything like that. But to me, like it matters like in the sense that we know the G League will be on the same page at all points in time, always with the Bulls. You know what I mean? Like implementing that. And that hasn't been a problem at all to my knowledge in recent years or anything like that. But when they first launched it, like I think the Bulls, like a lot of teams with Windy City, and we're going back, 7-8 years now, probably something like that. Like there was a little bit more confusion with roles and everything. That's not a problem recently, but it certainly won't be a problem now with Billy Donovan III.
Well, what if I told you that there remains a very strong possibility that with the B3 is also going to coach the Bulls summer league team? Is that a bigger deal?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, Henry, it's summer league. I don't put any stock into this stuff. Like a lot of people don't want to coach summer league, right? Like that's half the thing.
Sure.
You usually try to give it to younger guys or people obviously who have been on benches for a long time and still have aspirations of climbing up a little bit more, obviously. So it would be cool to see it. To me, it's cool for the family. It's good for the Bulls, everyone on the same page. I don't, until we see it play out, and again, as I think our friend Danny Parkins would say, wait for it to play out. It's always horrible radio, right? In any situation. But until we see it play out, I don't have strong feelings on it. But like, it's good for him. It's cool. Billy already had a lot of power in the organization, right? Like he is the daily spokesman. He has a really good relationship with Jerry Reinsdorf, Michael Reinsdorf, Arturas Karnisovas. So he already had that. So I don't think this is like a power play or anything like that.
Right.
But just reflective of where they are and kind of what they want to do. They love continuity. Billy loves that. AK loves that. AK loves continuity. Billy loves having communication, I should say, more than anything. And they'll certainly have that in both aspects now.
Yeah. The only thing that I was going to ask, do you think it's going to be more so communication around the system that they run, or could it mean that they develop certain guys more, but not aggressively, not adequately? But do you think that if Billy Sr. will just say, look, I want this guy, or Billy Jr., I don't know, would just say, look, I like this guy, do what you can, focus on him. Is that a possibility, or would it just more so be communication between the teams and just the playbook itself?
It's certainly communication, but I think like look, Billy Donovan III understands what his dad is as a coach. I mean, he played for him at Florida for a couple of years, and has been around him obviously his whole life. Has been around as a video coordinator for the Bulls before as well. So I think just like the mindset of his father would certainly help in that case. I don't know, like it's not like they were teaching different ways to defend the pick and roll at Windy City before, and now they'll teach the same way. That's never been a problem from anything I've ever gleaned or anything like that. But to me, like you do understand, I think sometimes too, like who you can be a little harder on, who you need to go softer on, how to push those buttons, stuff like that. So I think that's probably more the familiarity aspect as well as the communication that you referenced.
That's the voice of Cody Westerlund on the Organizations Win Championships podcast. He on the Bulls beat for The Score, and The Score's web editor is our guest. And we, as of airtime, have had one game in the NBA Finals now, and Boston beat Dallas 107-89. It was never close. It was ugly early, and we can often overstate and overreach on conclusions for one game of any series in the NBA. But this one, I think, holds some tales in how the Boston didn't feel it was even necessary to double team either Doncic or Kyrie Irving, and attacking both of them as the substandard individual defenders that they are too. This was a strong message, I believe, that was sent from Joe Mazzulla to Jason Kidd saying, your turn.
It's going to be so fascinating to me in game 2. How does Luka Doncic respond, right? He had a pretty good game, I think 30 points on 12 of 26, but the one assist just didn't get teammates involved because, like, as Luka said, like, they weren't really open. They weren't sending double teams to his teammates. I think they were Mavs were 1 of 6 on passes from Luka, so it's not like he had a bunch of potential assists. Does Luka go into overdrive and try to like hang 50, hang 55, like have this banner moment in the NBA finals because they play him the same way and he doesn't feel like his teammates are going to be able to have good looks or create? And if someone's going to go one-on-one that team, it might as well be Luka, obviously Kyrie too. But the good move by Joe Mazzulla was putting Drew Holiday on Kyrie to basically completely take him out of play and not have Drew Holiday on Luka and then Derek White on Kyrie. Like, they put their best defender on Kyrie to completely shut him down and really tried to make the Mavs a one-man team, and that's what it turned into. So, like, how does Luka respond? Because this is a hard balancing act, like, right? Like, you want to go out there and score 50, but if you do that and your teammates aren't involved 2 games in a row, that's going to be tough on them. And the Mavs, when they're at their best, is when Luka draws attention and he puts the ball in the shooting pocket perfectly for those shooters, or for Derek Jones Jr., Daniel Gafford, or Lively flying above the rim for dunks. The Celtics aren't going to let him do that. So how does Luka just kind of interpret the defense and what he does? And I don't know how he's going to respond, but I do feel like it does probably involve him scoring 30-plus points again, maybe even being more aggressive to force the Celtics' hand a little bit.
What I was going to ask is, you mentioned Holiday, you mentioned Derek White, obviously Tatum and Jaylen Brown don't need an introduction. It's just, what the hell are the Mavericks going to do about Porzingis? He was unbelievable last night. And
they were so physical with him too, Jason. And like, it didn't matter.
Right. It's just when he's 7'3", and I mean, you can, I know he just finished his rookie year, but you can only help but think about, what Wembanyama is about to do. And that's no disrespect to Wembanyama, because Porzingis is a damn good basketball player. He just can't stay healthy. But when he is, he just chucks it from 35 feet and it goes in every time. What can the Mavericks do to mitigate and minimize Porzingis's impact while also not forgetting about the other 4-headed monster that they have with White, Holiday, Brown, and Tatum? I mean, it just seems impossible.
I would probably play Derek Lively a little bit more. I know kind of had a rough game. They split those center minutes between Gafford, Maxi Kleber, and Lively, but like, he has the best lateral quickness for the Mavericks, I think, with the strength to still at least give a little bit of resistance toward the rim. So I'd probably lean on him a little bit more, pray that he can handle Porzingis a little bit more, hope that those 25-foot threes don't go in so much for Porzingis. But like, you're talking about, like, can you get physical with him? They were up in his chest. They were like throwing elbows at Porzingis. He was throwing them back. He was putting his shoulder in and just making space and hitting jump shots in their eye. Like, there's nothing more they could do, I don't think, from the physicality without just racking up a bunch of fouls and being idiots that get like flagrant fouls. And there's no point in that. So to me, he's going to be a huge difference in the series as long as he's healthy and playing like this. I'm pretty sure the Celtics are going to win with Porzingis at this level. But, the Celtics made 7 threes in the first quarter, got out to a big lead. Like, if the game is a little bit closer for longer, I think that's where, like, Luka can get his feel and the game becomes a little bit more walk it up here, walk it up there. Luka can influence the game, have more of an effect with his decision-making, with his strength on offense, gives the Mavs a little bit better chance when they get set up on defense. Maybe they can handle Porzingis and the rest of the 5-headed monster, the other 4 guys, whatever you want to say there. But it's tough, right? Because, like, Jason Tatum, I think 16 points, like, he'll have the potential to go off at some point in this series. Right. He had 6 turnovers. He didn't like his game, but Porzingis is amazing.
Well, they understand math too, because the Celtics took 82 shots, 42 threes.
Yeah,
like that's how it's done. It's a simple game. That's how it's done. And if they're guarding the way they're guarding, where they can switch every ball screen. And I was asked today, what adjustments would you make if you're Jason Kidd? And this, I don't want this to sound desperate early, but they're great at using the ball screen switches to avoid the bad matchups. They'll switch early to change a matchup. So don't use a ball screen. If they're going to switch it, all you're doing is bringing an extra defender over. Why not think a more classic isolation?
Just downhill.
Just isolate. I mean, even when you're talking about downhill, you can. I would have Kyrie Irving back up a little bit.
Almost like Oladipo.
Use his speed.
Prime.
Back up. Use your speed.
And also part of that is having two of the best ISO players in basketball.
Then don't bring extra defenders over if they're going to switch.
It's almost like the DeMar. Put him up there at the elbow. You know.
Yeah, but at least
Luka.
Kyrie. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying with Luka, like Luka's so strong, you can push these guys off their spots no matter what. So that's a good point.
And the thing with Luka and Kyrie, and no disrespect to DeMar, and he is one of the best ISO players in basketball, but Luka and Kyrie are dead-eye three-point shooters. And so it not only does it give you more options, and if they do double, Kyrie and Luka, but I'm saying the Celtics, if they do, if Luka draws so much attention or Kyrie draws so much attention in game 2, they're both good passers. So I agree with the statement about.
Well, then you're in the game. If they double, you are in that game, because then you're choosing: is it a lob or is it Washington or Jones in the corner?
The other answer to this is just Kyrie needs to score 30 points on 12 of 20 shooting. You know, I think it was 6 of 19, something like that in game 1, just wasn't good enough for them. So a lot of this, can the Mavericks score, could just be on Kyrie's shoulders, and he either will or won't. And it's the toughest matchup he's going to have of the playoffs, certainly, and probably of the whole season, with Drew Holiday chasing him around for an entire series.
All right, Cody, we are going to make you a part of the OWC trivia showdown. Okay. Now this began as the college showdown, where we would challenge each other, and this has expanded to best he can, and then you can come in and clean up the scrap, and we'll do the same on the other side of it. So you want to go first with my question?
Sure.
All right, go ahead. Okay. Here's mine. Very simple. Give me the top 10 Boston Celtics all-time leaders in win shares.
Larry Bird.
Ooh.
Okay, he's number 2.
Bill Russell.
Number 1.
John Havlicek.
Number 4.
Dave Cowens.
Number 9.
Bob Cousy.
Number 8.
Celtics win share. Paul Pierce.
Number 3.
Kevin Garnett.
No.
I wasn't there long enough.
No Garnett.
Rondo? He was
no, good guess.
Not Ray Allen, right?
No.
Okay. Just wanted to clear that.
Sitting on 6 of them so far, I think.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, and 9.
Reggie Lewis?
No, not a bad guess either.
Can I pipe in?
Go ahead. I was
Kevin McHale.
What would you say?
Robert Parrish.
Parrish is 5.
Kevin McHale.
McHale is 6.
So what do we need?
7 and 10.
7 and 10. Okay.
These are not easy.
You already said Havlicek. Didn't Casey Jones play a long time for them?
You got the right last name.
Which
Eddie
Jones?
Jones? No, not Eddie Jones. Was that a player?
Sam Jones.
Sam Jones.
Eddie Jones.
Sam Jones is 7, and you got to go way back for number 10.
Like Bob Cousy
60s
earlier?
Yeah, that's number 10 is Bill Sharman.
Would not have gotten.
We would have been here a long time.
Nice job, though. Nice job.
You.
All right, your turn.
Mine's pretty simple. Mine's about the other team in the NBA
Oh,
Finals.
boy.
So last time they were in the finals, they won against the Miami Heat in 2011.
Okay.
Can you name their starting lineup, like from the NBA Finals in 2011?
The Mavericks?
I can name 4 of them.
And Dirk Nowitzki.
Yep.
Tyson Chandler.
Correct.
Jason Terry?
Nope.
He was a 6th man, right?
Yeah. 6th man.
Was Kidd.
Yeah.
And now you're missing the other 2. Probably the harder.
Oh.
I got one of them.
Yeah, one of them is easier.
Sean Marion.
Yep. And now
Sean Marion.
This one's the tough one.
Now.
Okay, is he still in the league?
No.
Ooh.
Was he ever an all-star?
Let me see. Was he ever an all-star? He was never an all-star.
Did he ever play for the Bulls?
Was he ever a Bull? No, he was not.
Do you know it?
I don't. Do you?
No.
I'm thinking.
Wing.
I'm trying.
How can he, so he was a wing? So you had Marion as the
3.
as the 3,
No,
So
Marion.
or was Marion a 4? Because Jason Terry was like
Marion at the 3.
okay.
Marion at the 3, Nowitzki at the 4, Chandler.
Dirk was
Right.
basically a shooting guard on offense.
right.
So he was a 2.
He was a 2.
6'5".
I don't know. I'd have to go back to Rolando Blackman, who was well out of the league. No, I don't know.
You don't know either?
Cody?
I don't have a guess right now.
Deshaun Stevenson.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah.
Good question. We had a nice little parallel of questions there. Cody, thanks for joining us. This was fun.
Yeah, anytime. That's good. We'll keep our eye on the Bulls. React to any news and rumors, and hopefully we do get a little bit busier here, just with guys they're eyeing in the next several weeks, leading up to the 2-day draft in the NBA. Now 2 days we get to react to this.
And I'm told we might have a little surprise in between the draft and summer league. We may have Billy Donovan III if we can.
Why'd you
arrange some
spoil
things.
it?
What?
I feel like it's more fun if it's a surprise.
It's not a surprise. You have to tease in content. You have this.
Yeah, you got to make sure they download the next podcast and see if he's on it.
Right? Yeah. Download, like, subscribe, rate, do all the things, and to be a part of the OWC family. But Cody Westerlund, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk soon.
Yep. Take care and have a good weekend.
You too.